All right, so today we're going to look at how do we use conditional statements in JavaScript. So conditional statements allow you to perform different actions for different decisions. You use if to specify a block of code to be executed if a specified condition is true. You're going to use else to specify a block of code to be executed if the same condition is false. So if you pick a number and it's even, you do one thing, and then otherwise, you're going to do something else. So otherwise it would be odd. So the odd number can do something else. You can also use else if to specify a new condition to test if the first condition is false. So you could have like, if a number is a multiple of 3, do this. And then else if a number is a prime number, do this. Else do this. If it's, not a multiple of 3 or prime, it's going to do the third option, okay? You can use the switch property you can use switch to specify many alternative blocks of codes to be executed. So it's kind of like using else if over and over and over again, only you just use switch instead. So we're going to look at some examples. The first example is if, then else is also used there. And then we have an else if in example 2. And there's also a switch in example 3, which is not on here, but it's because we're going to show you the switch stuff first. So come back to the PowerPoint here in a second. So we'll just look at the first 2 examples. So, on page, there we go. All right. So here's our code. So we got conditional statements, if and else. Okay, so we got this paragraph, and then I've got a paragraph with some input in it. So I've got input for text, and it has an ID of A. And so we're going to say if whatever we put in there is less than 10, or is the number I put in here less than 10. So I'll put 7 in there, and we're going to click on that and see what happens. So we have a button. On click, the button is going to run the less than function, and that is where our if statement is going to be, or if and if else here. Okay, so we have less than. Okay, then I first declare a variable. So we've got declare and assign a variable A, and that variable is document.getElementById A. So here's our element with ID A is this element. So right now 7 is in there, and we're going to get the value, and we're going to make it into a number, okay, using parse int, because we don't want it to be a string 7. I want to know the number is less than 10. So then we come down here to our if statement. So we've got our variable. If A is less than 10, then we are going to change the element with ID results, which is right here. There's nothing in it right now, I believe. So here we go, result. And then I have a span over here, and the ID is result. We're going to change it to yes. Else, we're going to change it to no. So if 7 is less than 10, so we click here, it should say yes. And I'll make it 77. No. Okay. All right. Here we go. So we just did if and else. Now we're going to use the else if. So we'll look at this part right here. In the code below, the conditional statement is used to choose to tell you if a dinosaur was a carnivore, an herbivore, or an omnivore. And then I kind of give them away right here just so we know it's telling us the truth here. Okay. So we have is, and then we're going to have to select which dinosaur it is. Okay. And then we have the rest of our question. We're going to click here to find out. So when we click on that button, we are going to run the function dino food. Okay. And then our result is going to end up in result 2. So here's our function dino food. Okay. First, we're going to go ahead and say that the what's the dino name? That's going to be whatever is in here. Okay. So we're going to get element by ID dino.value. We do not need to make it into a number this time because it's not a number, it's a string. And then we're going to say if dino name is Spinosaurus, then it's a carnivore. Okay, and we're going to say that result 2, right here, the span element here, is going to say carnivore. Else, if it's Triceratops, it'll say herbivore. and then else if it is, or it's just whatever else is left is going to be an omnivore, which would be Oviraptor, but you don't have to say who it is because it's just whatever's left. Okay, so we've got a carnivore, herbivore, and an omnivore. All right, let's go back to our notes. And all right, so now we're going to look at switch. Switch can be used when there are many options of code blocks to be executed. So we're going to look at the switch example and take note of how to use prompts to gather information from the user. We've been doing that. Okay, so we're going to just continue to take some notes here, how we can gather information. Oh. All right. All right. So click the button to see if the person is married. All right, so we're going to gather stuff. So we click on try it, and it brings up this. So how did that happen? All right. So here's our button, married function. All right. Text, the variable is going to be text. We have another variable, person, and that is equal to prompt. So this is why this popped up. We've got a prompt, and it says type a person's name, and then Mrs. Kosi shows up automatically. Okay, but you can change it. So let's change it to Evan. Okay. Evan is not married, it says. Okay. So you type the person's name in. So here is the code that we have. All right. So after we have our prompt, we say switch person. That's this variable. So whatever gets typed in there. Okay. Case. If it's Mrs. Kosi, then Mrs. Kosi is married. Then we break. We have another case. If it's Mr. Hansel, it's going to go reply. The text will come back. Mr. Hansel is married. Then we have another break. If it's Evan, then it's going to say Evan is not married. Dominic, Dominic's not married. Break. Case, Zach, Zach's not married. Break. Case Ethan, the text will return Ethan is not married. Break. And then default. So you can leave this for if it's anything that's not any of the cases, text, I do not know that person. Okay, so we can go ahead and try it for somebody that we wouldn't know. Polly. I do not know that person. Okay, so that comes up. And then, so after it has a result 3 is going to equal text. So that's what all these were. Okay, and result 3 is just probably a span element or a paragraph element, whatever I made it, with the ID paragraph element with the ID result 3. It's got nothing in it to start, so if we refresh, nothing there. All right, so let's go back and see if there's anything else in the notes. Just tell us what we're going to work on, I think. All right, so the assignment, you're going to work on JavaScript conditional statements today. That's on Schoology. If you finish, you should look around on the web for other people's scripts and just kind of see if you can modify and make them work on your own page.